Alright, let's cut straight to it. If there's one thing that defines this entire fairy event update, it's the Enchanted Chest. Every rare seed, every unique pet, every crazy drop that players are chasing right now, it all funnels back to this one chest. But here's the catch. Before you can even think about farming hundreds of chests, before you can touch that phoenix, that Aether Fruit, or even the new cosmetics, you first need fairies in jars. And that's where most players either give up or they completely waste their time. So what I'm going to do here is walk you through step by step how to go from catching fairies to opening your very first enchanted chests. And not just one or two, but dozens every single day. I'll explain how to actually farm fairies properly, how to keep jars flowing non-stop, how to manage those fairy points so you're not stuck broke, and finally, how to squeeze the absolute maximum rewards out of this event before it's gone. Trust me, by the end of this guide, you're not going to look at fairies the same way again. You'll see exactly how a single fairy can snowball into a full inventory of chests. But first, if you need guides and tutorials about Grow a Garden, please hit that red sub button. Like this video, it really helps this channel grow in ways you don't even realize. Thank you guys, and let's dive right into it. The first thing you need to understand is that enchanted chests are locked behind jars. Without jars, you literally can't progress. For every batch of jars you submit to the main NPC in the portal, you'll earn an enchanted chest. And on top of that, jars are basically the fuel for everything else in this event. If you don't have them, you won't be crafting seeds, you won't be opening eggs. So let me say it clearly, no jars means no chests. And no chests means you're basically not even playing this update. That's how important they are. Now, how do you actually get them? There are a couple of different methods, but they all start the same way, with the fairy raid. Every single hour, that big glowing tree in the middle comes alive and starts spitting out fairies. These fairies will fly into your farm, and if you're holding fairy nets, you can catch them on the spot. The old-fashioned way is to just run around chasing them one by one, but let's be honest, that's painfully slow. So players started experimenting, and here's the trick. If you set up your farm with a ton of unmutated crops like simple strawberries or blueberries, and then smack the tree as the raid begins, the fairies don't just wander randomly. They spawn with the purpose of mutating crops, and when they see your big patch of plain plants, they funnel straight through your farm. This basically forces them into a choke point where you can sit and catch them non-stop. It's like turning the raid into a conveyor belt of free jars. But, and this is really important, this method only works if you actually have unmutated crops waiting. If your whole garden is already glimmering, the fairies won't even spawn. They've got nothing to mutate, so they just don't show up. So the setup here is simple. Before you log off or before the next raid, make sure you leave a big section of your farm untouched. No glimmering, no mutations. Then keep your glimmering sprite away. When that raid timer hits, boom, you've got a whole army of fairies flying right into your trap. Now let's talk about semi-AFK farming. This is where you're not just sitting in one spot, but you're also mixing in the fairy world portals. Every 30 minutes, those portals open up, and inside you'll find way more fairies than normal. You can run around, catch them, hit the NPC shops in there, and grab extra resources while you're at it. If you balance that portal farming with camping the tree during raids, you'll see your jar count start climbing really fast. It's a grind, but it feels rewarding because you're actively stacking up jars while also making progress in other areas. But let's be honest, most people don't want to spend hours just running around clicking because we all have stuff to do. Especially with school starting, it's tough to just grind online anytime you want. That's where the full AFK method comes in, and honestly, it's the strongest strategy in the entire event. Here's how it works. Before the raid, you craft a big stack of fairy nets, hundreds of them if you can, because why not? It only takes 30 seconds to craft. You don't want to run out while AFK. Don't make the same mistake I did. I crafted nets on my alt account by accident, thinking I did it on my main, and I ended up with almost nothing during the raid. Total fail. Then you set up an auto clicker on your character aimed right at the purple tree door. I'm talking 1 to 100 millisecond clicks, so it's constantly firing. For those who don't know where to download it on mobile phones, I'll link it in the description. And if you don't know how to use it, there are tons of tutorials on YouTube you can search for. When the raid begins, every fairy that comes out gets caught instantly, without you even touching the keyboard. Your character just spams nets non-stop, and the fairies walk right into it. I tested this myself for a full 20-minute event with my fairy duration upgrade maxed out, and I walked away with over 63 fairy jars in that one session. Take note, I actually ran out of nets. If I hadn't, I think I could have hit over 100 in a single wave. That's literally a guaranteed enchanted chest every single raid, and you don't even have to lift a finger. So if you're serious about farming, AFK at the tree is the move. It's reliable, it's efficient, and it's way less stressful than chasing fairies all day. And you can actually craft things like the Fairy Power Extender, which extends the duration of your next fairy wave, and the Fairy Summoner. But someone told me this only summons around 10 fairies in a wave, which really isn't worth it compared to the natural fairy spawns from the tree during the actual raid. But here's the good news, the devs actually heard all the complaints, because let's be real, a lot of players were saying this event was way too hard. The grind felt insane, the requirements were crazy, and not everyone had time to AFK 24/7. So in update 1.22.1, they made some big changes. They reduced the amount of fairies you need to catch just to unlock items in the shops, and they lowered the prices on certain items across the different fairy shops, making things much more accessible. And they didn't stop there. In update 1.22.2, they doubled down and reduced things even further. Fairy shop prices went down again, and the biggest change of all, the jars required to submit to the Luminous Sprite dropped from 100 down to just 50. That's literally half the grind gone in one update. If you thought this event was impossible before, now it's actually manageable. Which means right now is the best time to farm, because the requirements are easier, but the rewards are still just as good. So now you've got jars stacking up. What do you actually do with them? Obviously, submitting them to the NPC in the Fairyland, what's her name again? Lumina. Submitting fairy jars is the main way you get enchanted chests. When the event first dropped, you needed 100 jars for just one chest, and that was insanely difficult. Players complained a ton, and the devs kept lowering it until it hit 50. And as you can see, you can refresh her stocks using shekels. As long as you've got shekels, this is basically unlimited. And it's not just Lumina where you can buy items. If you haven't gotten the cockatrice yet, the Elder Wisp Caretaker also sells the enchanted egg, and you can refresh his stock with shekels too. But that's not the only grind. You can also craft the chest. You'll need sun bulbs, which come from the seed pack. That's pretty easy, so you won't struggle with that. But yes, you'll also need the enchanted seed pack, the enchanted egg, and 6,000 fairy points. Because behind the scenes, everything in this crafting area is powered by fairy points. And like I said earlier, they reduced the fairy point requirements. At first, it was 25,000, then it was reduced to 15,000, and now it's just 6,000. So yeah, the devs are definitely listening. But fairy points burn fast. Every seed pack, every enchanted egg, every enchanted crate, they all cost thousands. If you try crafting chests directly, you'll see how expensive it gets. You're looking at 6,000 fairy points just to start, and if you don't already have the right resources, it can climb up to 10,000 per chest. Because you'll also need to craft the seed packs and eggs that go into it. So where are you supposed to get all those points? The answer is the fountain. If you played part 1 of the fairy update, you already know this. The fountain is your lifeline. Every time you donate glimmering crops, you rack up fairy points, and if you're lucky, you'll also get mutation sprays and other useful rewards back. I made a video about this. If you haven't watched it, I'll link it in the comments, so go check it out. But now, let me give you a quick peek at the method. The best strategy here is to create a messy, mixed up grid of different crops. I'm talking daffodils, mushrooms, pumpkins, strawberries, sunbulbs, throw everything in there. The more variety, the more chances for mutations. Once they start glowing into glimmering form, you donate them non-stop. I'll flash all the crops needed for the fountain on screen. This is from the Dawn server. Whenever you get sprays back, you immediately reapply them to your farm, keep the loop going and repeat. This creates a cycle where your farm never runs out of glimmering plants and your fairy point balance climbs into the hundreds of thousands if you keep at it. And you're gonna need every single one of those points because the fairy shops do not play around. Pets, cosmetics, seeds, they all demand huge point investments. But here's the fun part. Once you've got jars and points under control, that's when the chests really start rolling in. You've got your jars going straight to the Glimmering Sprite NPC, Lumina, for guaranteed chests. You've got your crafting station if you want to convert points into more chests, and then you've got the Fairy World NPC shops which you can refresh every night with shekels. Stack those 3 methods together and suddenly you're not just opening a few chests, you're ripping through 20 to 40 in a single day if you're consistent. And for those who want to push even further, you can use the Packy. This pet helps you double your crafted items. It grants a 6% chance to duplicate a crafted item, and it caps at 25% per Pachycephalosaurus regardless of age, weight, mutation, or toys. If you have 8 of them, that's crazy, and if you add a medium pet toy, which you can buy at the seed shop, you can raise the duplication chance up to 8%. Imagine that, it's a huge boost during this event. And that's the real endgame here. Sure, the drop rates are rough. 1% for Aether Fruit, 1% for the Phoenix, a ton of filler items in between. But the more chests you can stockpile, the more shots you get at hitting that jackpot. Let's be real for a second. This is the hardest chest grind Grower Garden has ever had. You're juggling jars, points, nets, seeds, crafting, NPC refreshers, it's a lot. But once you understand the loop, it becomes second nature. AFK, stack jars, turn them into chests, repeat. That's the rhythm, and every so often you'll pull something insane. Maybe a shroomy to grow bigger plants, maybe a drake to speed up cooking, maybe even the luminous spirit itself. And if the RNG gods are on your side, maybe it's the Phoenix or the Aether Fruit. So yeah, if you're wondering how to maximize your time during this event, that's the playbook. Set up unmutated crops for raids. AFK farm fairies with nets until your inventory is overflowing. Dump jars into the NPC, keep grinding fountain points and cycle those fairy shops daily. Craft when you can, refresh when you can, and push for as many enchanted chests as possible before the event ends. It's not easy and it's not fast, but right now, thanks to the new updates, it's actually achievable. And it's easily the most rewarding event we've had so far. So I'll throw it back to you. Are you going all in on AFK farming, or are you splitting your time between raids, roaming fairies, and fairy world grinding? I'm genuinely curious how many jars you guys have stacked up so far, so let me know in the comments. And if this guide helped you out, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and as always, good luck farming those enchanted chests. Remember, less grind, more shine. Happy grinding. See you always in the next one. Peace out.